You remember how many wives he had, by the way? He had 300 wives. And how many concubines? He had 600 concubines. Now, these are like your Saturday night squeezes. He had his main squeezes. He had 300 main squeezes and 600. Now, these women were not necessarily slaves, but they lived in sort of like a dormitory on the palace grounds, and all they lived for was Solomon's phone call. That's all they lived for. Then he had 300 wives, 300 mothers-in-law. Yes, I'm kind of wondering how wise he really was. But he, if not, it should have been. It should have been, yeah. All right, now, he got some things right. And look in Proverbs 18:22. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor of the Lord. All right. Now, the word wife means completer. And so it's like a circle that is almost complete, but it's not. And so this is the guy. All right. The man is the stronger of the two genders. You ladies, you're the more sensitive. And so when the woman comes along and she completes him, and so now you have one, and that's what God told Adam and Eve in the garden. The two will become one, and so that's what he's talking about. A man is made complete when his wife enters his life, and they are welded together into this marriage. Now, look in the book of Ephesians, chapter 5. One of the banes of contemporary culture is that liberalized women want to become men. They want to take the role of a man. That is, number one, biologically impossible. Number two, it is emotionally impossible. And there's a battle, and you guys, I'm sure, are very aware of this battle, this gender war that's going on in the country right now, that men are the problem. And if we can somehow design a new male gender, and what's the best person to become a male? In our world, but the best way to replace the old, oppressive, crotchety male is to design a sensitive female male. And so that's what's going on right now. The female gender is, well, we don't really want to get into that. But in the book of Ephesians, chapter number 5, beginning with verse number 22, wives. And it is the word completers. So those of you who are female, you're the completer of your husband. Submit yourselves unto your own husbands. And we looked at this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Submit doesn't mean to bow down and scrape and be the doormat. That's what the world wants you women to think that means, that you're less than your husband and you are his handmaid. That's not what the word means. It just simply means to arrange in orderly fashion. And I gave you a couple of illustrations. If I ask you to count to 10, how would you do it? 1, 2, 3. Why would you do that? Because that's the order of the numerals. If I ask you to recite the alphabet, where would you begin? At A, and your last would be Z. Why? Because that's the order of the letters. It doesn't mean that Z is more important than A or that 9 is less important than 1. That's the order of things. And so the order of the male-female gender is simply this. The male is the head, or the husband is the head of the wife. The Bible never says that the husband is the head of the home. Never says that. Doesn't have to. The male or the husband is the head of. Now, it doesn't mean the boss. That's not what the word head means. When we think, who's the head of this place? Well, we normally think of the boss. Who's the owner? That's not what this word means. This is my head. You have one as well. All right? The head of the female is the husband, which means when something hurts on you, what's the first organ to know it? Your brain. Does the brain function, does your head function to protect your body? Do you know how to dodge a pothole in the road? Do you know how to not pick up a hot stone from the fireplace? Do you know what part tells you that that's the wise course of action? Well, your brain does, all right? The head does. And so the head is the protective element of the body. And so, ladies, you want a husband in God's will. That's where you want him. You want your man in the will of God, because when he is in God's will, that is where you receive the greatest security and protection and honor that is possible in this relationship. And so, verse number 23, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is head of the church. All right, now, how many of us have a problem with Jesus being the head of the church? Would you want it any other way? All right. How many women you think have a problem in a marriage with the husband being the head of the wife? Probably a bunch. All right. Why would you, if it's not problematic that Jesus is the head of the church, why is it problematic that the husband is the head of the wife? And I think it's pretty simple, because the husband ain't Jesus. Right? And so it is easy for us to submit to a perfect husband, Christ. But we, and I'm putting me, we're not perfect husbands. We can be, let's see, what are some acceptable in the church house words? We can be stubborn. We can be rude. We can be what? Deaf. Okay. Perfect illustration. Thank you, Jamie. You're right. We can be a lot of things. And so we are the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he's the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, do you think it is appropriate for the church to be submissive to the commands of Christ and to the principles of the Word of God? It is, all right? That's where we find our greatest strength and power and authority. So let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Now, again, where's the dysfunction here? Why do we have a problem there, but we don't have being submissive to Christ in the church, but in the home, that's a problem? Why? It's because husbands ain't Jesus, all right? And it's because wives ain't the church. And so when you've got a rebellious wife with a stubborn husband, the picture breaks down. All right? Verse number 25. Husbands, love your wives, here we go, even as, just like Christ loved the church and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. So one of the ways that a husband can support, encourage, build, love, embrace, and cherish his wife is by what he says to her, the word. How is the church cleansed and made strong? By what? The word. How does a wife know that her husband loves her and cherishes her and she is important to him and valuable to him? Well, one of the main strategies is by what we say. All right, it's the word that we use, the language that we choose to speak to her by. Number 27, verse 27, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So ought, just like that, so ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. Now, one day, Jesus is coming back. And the church is to have her clothes. By the way, we're making our wedding garments right now. We are making our wedding garments. Those will not be provided out of the closet in heaven. We are designing our own wedding garments. And the Bible says that these things are to be, well, without spot and blemish. They're to be clean. They're to be pure. They are to be without spot and blemish. And so the church is the bride of Christ. And so our wives are, their spirit, you ladies, your spirit, your mind, your attitude is to be clean and pure. Well, who's responsible for that? The husband is responsible for loving his wife to the point where she wants to be clean and pure and without blemish and without spot. She's got the motivation. All right? Now, let's take a look at this matter of what he needs ain't what she needs. I'm talking to the choir here, and I'm aware of that. You ladies, you are not female men. Guys, we're not male females. We're not male women. We're the same species, but we're different genders. Now, not only are we different genders, but we have different biologies and we have different mentalities. Biologically, we are human beings. You know, you ladies have 20% less muscle mass than a man does. And the reason for that, it accommodates childbirth. A man couldn't give birth. He doesn't have the piping and the plumbing and we don't have that. But a woman has less muscle mass so that the birth canal can open. You also have a portion of your brain called the amygdala in the back of your brain where your occipitals are, back in the back, that controls your eyesight. You get twice as much blood flow to the amygdala that a man does. All right, guess what the amygdala controls in a woman and a guy as well? Their emotions, exactly. So are you more sensitive? Yes. Well, I hate that. That's the way God made you. You have the nesting instinct. Man doesn't have the nesting instinct. You have the capacity to embrace children and to show children a motherly love that a guy does not have. And I said it in the morning message. I cannot teach a daughter to be a woman. I can't do that. Now, can I tell her to be respectful to her husband? Yes. But from a personal experience, I could never tell any of my daughters, now here's the way you be a woman. Just watch me. No, don't do that. You know, and you ladies could not teach your sons to be men. There's got to be a team effort to teach from both perspectives. The guy teaches the son how to be a man and a husband, and the lady does the same thing. And with the girl, and I'm convinced that a young man will be basically the same kind of a husband to a wife as he is a son to his mother. And a young lady or a young man will be basically the same kind of a husband to a daughter as he is a son to his mother. If kids are not taught how to respect their opposite in the home, son to mom and daughter to father, if they're never taught a proper relationship in the home, they will take that out into a marriage relationship, and neither one will know how to function. And so the only thing they know how to do when it gets tough, cut out. I'll just change it. We'll just trade in. We'll quit. We'll throw in a towel and just bounce. And it's not that you marry the wrong person. It's that they marry the wrong person. That make sense? In other words, the individual that bounces from relationship to relationship to relationship is the problem. Now, how can you build a hedge around your marriage? I think all of us in here, if you're married, you want a wall. Walls are good. Walls are real good. I live within 4 walls at my house, as a matter of fact. And they've withstood several hurricanes. I want a good, strong wall. Nothing wrong with that. And your marriage is a very precious thing. How many of you have a gun safe at home? What's in it? Toilet paper? What's it? I don't have a gun safe, but I have a gun. You got something. You got something to put your stuff in, and it locks. And we put our precious things, valuable things, behind security. All right? Nothing more precious in the world than a marriage. There's nothing more significant than that. And so I need to become aware, Stacy is not a man. I can't treat her like a man. I'm not a woman. She can't treat me, and same goes with all of us. And so it's kind of like when you hunt or fish, and we've got some hunters and some fishermen in here. Does it help? I've never turkey hunted. I have a shotgun, and Michael's going to teach me how to turkey hunt. I've never killed a turkey in my life. Michael's killed, dozens and dozens and dozens. It's nothing for Michael to come back with, big turkey. I don't know how to do that. I need to learn how. Turkeys are pretty wary. And so if you're going to hunt anything, you need to know the traits, the habitats, and the habits of that animal. If you're hunting deer, I don't care what. If you're hunting for reds, you're fishing for reds, you've got to know, well, they'll hit this more than they'll hit something else, and this is where you throw for a red. Reds they're not everywhere. They have a particular habitat. Snook are the same way. You mostly find them around the mangrove islands, and so you need to know that. All right, now, what do we know? Guys, let's just start. Guys, what do we know about women? Not much. That's a mouthful right there. I heard about a couple that's having trouble. And they went to a marriage counselor, and they sat down, and they just poured their story out, and the woman just melts into a puddle of tears. She is boo-hooing and bawling. And the counselor kind of figures what the problem is, and he stands up, walks around his desk, he picks her up by the elbow and puts her in this big back bend kiss for about 15 or 20 seconds. Sits her back down, goes and sits down himself, and looks at the husband and says, she needs that 3 times a week. And the old boy says, well, I can have her here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that's about... Sometimes we guys are clueless. Would you ladies agree with that? Sometimes we are absolutely clueless, and so we need to become aware. That's some pretty simple stuff. However, not every need can be met by a spouse. You're a husband. You can't meet every need your wife has. She has friends that she needs to be with. And so the husband that prohibits his wife from ever going out is doing himself a disfavor. I want Stacy to be around godly women. I want that. I want her to be able to talk to other girls and other wives. I want you to go out and eat dinner, and I need that. Because it helps her. I need the same thing. There are times when I need to get away and go hunting or fishing or just go off somewhere to be around godly men. Need to be careful who you spend your spare time with, but we need that. Nothing wrong with that. And so I can't meet every need. There are a few basic needs that only, however, can be met by a spouse. Only a few. And so they are exclusive needs reserved only for marriage. Now, I can laugh and joke and cut up and have a good time with the guys in our church, and we do. One of the things I love about Riverview Heights is we have fun. We're not all tight and drawn up. We don't do that here. And we've got our men in the church. When we stand in, we laugh, we joke, we holler, we carry on, and I love that atmosphere, okay? There, however, are some needs, guys, that I don't look to you for. You understand that? I'm sure you do. And I think you probably feel the same way about me. I hope you do, and I think you probably do. So, if these needs are not met, these exclusive needs that only a husband and wife can provide for each other, if those primary exclusive needs are not met, that spouse is going to get frustrated because these needs are not met, and they're going to look somewhere else. See, there are some emotional nutrients that every husband and wife needs, and you got to have those. And when those are not met by the spouse, guess what happens in many instances? This is what causes affairs. The guy's not getting what he thinks he needs, the wife's not getting, so, they go off and find these needs somewhere, and that's the destruction of that marriage. Now, what needs are we talking about? If these needs are unmet by the spouse, they will attempt to have them met somewhere else. And so, men, your needs are not the same as your wife's needs. There was a Y'all know Gary Chapman? Gary Chapman is oh goodness, he's been a marriage counselor, Christian marriage counselor for decades. And after counseling thousands of couples, he has given us a list that has been confirmed through his historical work with marriage counseling. And there are 5 needs that he has given that he'll give them to us in order, and they're completely different. Man, completely different. Woman, completely different. And I need to understand this. So, males and females don't need the same thing out of a marriage. I don't need out of my marriage what Stacy needs out of the marriage. And that's okay. That's normal. That's average. And so men ain't women. Culture, did you hear that? I don't care what I don't care how you cut your hair, ladies. You ain't a man. You're not a man. Bruce Jenner, you're a man. I don't care what you call yourself or how hideous you look now, you are a man. A very ugly, sick man. You're exactly right. And so we're looking at what is so different about us. And the man's 5 basic needs. Now, here they are. Now, we got some kids in here, but that's okay. Where else are they going to learn? You know, we'll be appropriate in presentation, but they need to understand what's going on here. Number 1, the number 1 need of a husband in a marriage, according to Gary Chapman and his thousands of interviews, sexual fulfillment. All right? Number 2, recreational companionship. It's important to a man that a woman do the things that he likes to do with him. It's important. Now, you say, well, I don't want to go do that. I understand that. But it speaks volumes to your husband when you say, I'll never forget. It was on Friday night or Saturday or something. Anyway, and Stacy came to me and said, you want to go to the Skyway and go fishing? I was like, what? He said, you want to go to the Skyway and go fishing? Now, guess who's not necessarily a big fisherman? Stacy. But guess who really likes to fish? Me. And so she was willing to surrender. I know she'd rather do other stuff, but man, I scrambled around there and I threw some fishing rods and stuff, and man, we went to Skyway and went fishing. And so I realize you ladies might not like the hobbies that your husband is involved in, but guess what you're saying to him when you get involved in those things? What you want to do is important to me, and I am willing to do this, even though it might not be my favorite thing. Now, don't say that to him. I want you to know the only reason I'm going is because I love you. I'm going to be miserable and stay at the house. You know, if that's your approach, get your heart right and then go next Saturday. But don't tell him that kind of stuff. And so there's recreational companionship. Number 3, an attractive spouse. It's important to a husband that his wife take care of herself physically. It's important. A man loves to be seen with his wife when she is just dolled up. And by the way, you know how this can be motivated? Guys, when she dresses up, oh my word, you know, and she's, I don't understand why, but why can't you ladies put on eye makeup with your mouth closed? It's impossible, apparently. It's always, you know, and I get tickled watching, but, you know, I mean, they'll do all that, and then when she comes out, you know what she wants. You know what she wants you to say. You know, she comes out and she walks in. Don't say this. That's nice. You don't. That's nice. That's okay. That's okay. Okay. What do you mean it's okay? You know, you're drop dead gorgeous. I think, now you ladies cry. I'm not a woman. But do you love to hear your husband say you're beautiful? You love to hear that. You need that. And so, guys, I need to be aware, and I try. I am not the world's number 1 husband by any stretch of the imagination, but on a regular basis, I try to tell Stacy, you are a beautiful woman. Makeup slows you down. You know, you're drop dead. I try, and I'm not just trying to build her up. From my perspective, that's exactly what I believe. She needs to know that. She needs to hear me say that. All right, then number 4 is domestic support. We need domestic support. Number 5, admiration. Now, this is respect. Every man needs to be respected by his wife. Now, here's the Mexican standoff. A woman needs to be loved. That's her main thing. A man needs to be respected. But now, if there's this Mexican standoff and the husband says, I tell you what, I'll love you when you start respecting me. And the wife will say something like, I'll respect you when you start loving me. Well, who's going to go first? The stronger Christian. That's who's going to go first. Weaker Christians always stand their ground when it comes to their rights. It's always the weaker Christian. It is the stronger Christian that submits and surrenders his way and becomes submissive to the Lord and to spouses. All right? Now, that's, guys, and let me kind of open Pandora's box here, and y'all don't have to answer. Is that pretty accurate, you ladies? You think? Guys, you think that's pretty accurate? All right. Well, she needs what? Okay, guys, this is what our wives need. In order, according to a professional counselor, Christian marriage counselor that's done this for decades, I think about 40, 45 years, if a husband thinks his wife's needs are similar to his own, he's going to fail miserably as a husband. Absolutely. She is not a man in a skirt. She is completely different in every conceivable way. The woman's 5 most basic needs in marriage are, number 1, affection, not sexual attention. As a matter of fact, ladies, if you know that the only reason your husband hugs you or whatever is to that, I'm being stared at right now, so I don't know exactly how to handle it. You know what I'm talking about? You want to get intimate, and he's just been kind of a jerk all day. Now, all of a sudden, he's all huggy, touchy-feely. How do you feel? Nope. All right. That's exactly why. Because if you can't trust someone with your heart, you're not going to trust them with your body. All right. And so they need affection. They need to be hugged. They need the affection that will lead to nothing sexually at that moment. All right. The wife needs to know, I'm attracted. How many of you wives you really need to feel attractive to your husband? You need that. All right? Guys, you see the heads doing that? Let's learn something here. Yes, I need that. So what do? I was counseling with a guy one time, and his wife sitting right there. And he told me, he said, Brother Jim, I told her the day I married her I loved her, and if it ever changes, I'll let her know. Said that out loud in front of God and everybody. And, of course, his wife, kind of puddled up there. But you ladies need affection. You need to hold hands. You need to feel your husband's arm around your shoulder for no other reason other than he wants to be close to you and he wants to just express his affection to you. That's number 1. Number 2, conversation. And not just one word answer. How are you today? Yeah, okay. How are you doing today? Okay, all right. Yeah, that's not conversation. That's a monologue. That's an interrogation. And it is true that women speak an average of 50,000 words a day and men speak an average of 25,000 words a day. And I have heard that the reason it's twice as much is because women need to have everything repeated because we don't, we got to say it twice. And so that's where all that comes from, which that's probably not true. But you ladies, you're very articulate. And when you talk about something, you want to talk about all the ins and outs. You want to go down every little alley, open all the doors. You're like Matt Dillon doing his rounds on Saturday night in Dodge City. You're going to check every doorknob. And the husband is like, yeah, well, what, well, tell me more than that. And I find myself guilty of this. On a phone call, I'll hang up. And Stacy will say, well, and she'll know who it was, and she'll say, well, what do they want? They want to meet me at the church in the morning at 10 o'clock. And I've been on the phone 20 minutes. What? And so conversation. So what does that tell me? That I need to do what? I need to talk to my wife. I need to talk to her. I need to express to her. I need to let her talk. Now, sometimes there's not a thing I can do about everything. And when I come in or when you come in and your wife is upset, she's not looking. And again, I'm not a woman, but you ladies tell me if this is right. You're not necessarily looking for us to solve the problem. Right? Well, if you'd listen to me, if you just done this, that's not what you want to hear. What you want is for your husband to, what is that Hebrew word? Shut up. You want us to shut up so you can tell us from your perspective, your angle, how you're feeling. And some of the wisest counsel I think that a husband can ever give his wife is this. I understand how you feel. Sometimes it's about us. I just think you don't listen to me. And don't go, excuse me, what'd you say? Don't do that. Yeah. Yes, I have done that before, and that there's a time and a place, and sometimes that's not the time or the place. But conversation. Is this true, ladies? Do you need just to air your heart out and talk to somebody? Not necessarily looking for solutions to your problem. Not everything is a work project. You just need to talk, right? Number 3.
You really don't need to talk to them going.
Okay, just explain that a little bit. You mean on driving? What going?
They're walking away.
Oh, okay. All right, I see what you're saying. So let me see if I can translate that. You need us to stop and turn around and look at you and, okay, face the music. Is that what you're saying? Okay. And just, all right, okay. Number 3, honesty and openness. You ladies need that, right? You need us to be honest about everything with you and be open about those things. All right, number 4, financial support. You need somebody to contribute significantly to the household. You need us to work and produce income. And now in today's economy, I would say 8 out of 10 ladies work outside the home. It's almost necessary, and I understand that. But you need us to contribute to that. You need to know that if there's a need, that it's going to be taken care of. And then number 5, family commitment. The number 1 family in this church to your pastor is mine. The number 1 family in this church to you is yours. So commit yourself to your family. Your family is not second rate to anybody. All right? Now, I know all of us guys, we have buddies. We have friends. You ladies, you have friends. You got girlfriends that you go out and do stuff with. That's not your primary obligation. Now, is there anything wrong with going out with them? Absolutely not. I mentioned that earlier. I think it is absolutely vital that the spouse go out with good people, godly people. You want that because they come back sharper. What sharpens iron? Iron sharpens iron. And so when you go out, you're challenged by, men get 4 or 5 guys together. They may be going through some of the similar circumstances. Well, here's what I found helps. Here's what's good, you can pick up good ideas and you can talk about things. And it's an enjoyable experience. You ladies are the same thing. When you ladies, and I don't want to know, say she goes out with Buddy, I don't want to know what they talk about. I know what they talked about. I don't need to know the details. No, I don't need to know that. Because I trust not only her, I trust the women that she goes out with to go to dinner with or whatever. And so I know what they're going to discuss is going to make all of them better. I'm aware of that. And so, family commitment. Now, if any one of these five are unmet, the marriage is setting itself up for an affair. You're going to get what you need, either legitimately or illegitimately. And so what I need to do, I need to learn all I can about my wife. See, she's a female, and your wives are also female. We need to know as much as we can about how God made them. And then there's the particular. I'm not married to every woman in this building. You're different. And so that draws it down even to a greater pinpoint. I'm not married just to a woman. I'm married to this woman who is unique among all the women in the world, just like the rest of you are. And so, husbands, do we not need to know not only the female psyche, but our particular female psyche? Because there are not two women that are alike. Now, they have similarities, but they're different, and I need to know what those differences are. And you need to know what makes your wife mad. What ticks her off? What are her trigger words? What are her trigger behaviors that you do? And work to weed those out. All right? Now, there are love languages Dr. Chapman has come up with, and they're great. Everybody has an emotional language. You do, I do. In other words, when a spouse says to the spouse, I love you, what do you mean by that? It's I love you. Well, exactly how are you going to express that? So I have a different language than my wife. You all have different languages in your spouse. So I need to become bilingual. Not only do I need to know what my love language is, I need to learn to speak her language. So that when I tell her I love her, I'm not speaking my language. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say that here's a husband, and he's speaking German, and she is speaking Italian. And he is saying in German, I love you. And she's listening in Italian, and she doesn't understand what that means. And he can say it all day long. Until he learns to speak Italian, she's not getting it, okay? And so this guy has got to learn how to speak the language she understands. So the same thing is true in a marriage. Your spouse has a language that you don't have, and you've got to learn to speak that language. And, well, what is your emotional language? What is my spouse? I need to know these two things. There are a bunch of things I need to know in life. Number one, I need to know my temperament type, and we try to cover that in our temperament series here annually. You need to know your spiritual gift. You need to know what God has done specifically through salvation to gift you to support the kingdom's work in this world. You need to know that. I need to know what my language of love is. There are some things that I love for Stacy to do, and there are some things that she loves for me to do, and they're completely different. The same thing is going to be true in your household as well. And so if a spouse does not learn to speak the love language of the other spouse, well, they're going to find somebody who speaks the language. You understand what I'm saying? You've got a woman that's Italian and a husband that's German, and he never speaks her language. Guess who does she want to be around? Somebody that speaks Italian. Exactly. And so if he will put forth the effort to learn her language, oh my word, wow. You know, one of the greatest things that I've discovered when I go off to another country, normally I speak through a translator because I don't speak African or Spanish, but what I'll ask the guy that's going to do the translation, help me say, I am honored to be here. Well, here's the way you say it. And so when I first get up, I'll say that. And you ought to see the congregation. The crowd is like, and they'll start mumbo and jumbo in their language, because, wow, this guy's speaking our language. Well, that's all I'm speaking, all right? You ain't getting anything else. And I remember went to Africa first time, and Ernie Hopper, who's quite the jokester, by the way, but he doesn't come across. He's the one that talked about, and he was pulling my leg, and just like I'm pulling yours. He's told that all over the country. And so I was asking Ernie, we had just a large group of missionaries and pastors from Africa, and these guys, they didn't know English. And I said, Ernie, what's a good Swahili, I think is a language. I said, what is a good phrase for me to say, I am so honored and so glad to be here? Tell me. And so for quite a while, he was training me, and it was Mimi Nipunda. And I was like, say it, Mimi Nipunda. And so he rehearsed it and helped me out. Mimi Nipunda. Okay, I got it. So I get up in front of this crowd the first night. Oh, man. I'm like, Mimi Nipunda. And they fell apart. Their eyeballs got that big around, and they were like, ooh, they were doing like this. And so after it was all over, I said, Ernie, exactly. What? He said, do you know what you told them? I said, no, I don't. He said, I am a donkey, but it was the vernacular. I'm a jackass. And they were like, oh, and I was like, and he just busted out laughing. So a couple of years later, we took George Garner over there. And George was asking, yeah, what's the big? I said, Mimi Nipunda. And he's like, what is that? George, it means I am your big friend. And he said it like multiple times. Anyway, you got to learn the language, learn how to speak the language. And yeah, exactly right. All right. So each partner hears I love you differently. And so I've got to learn how to speak her language, and you've got to learn how to speak the language of your spouse as well. So here are the native languages of love. Number one, words of affirmation. This is not a male-female thing. This is everybody here. How many of you love to be encouraged? All right, words of affirmation. Thank you for what you did. You did a great job. I can always depend on you. And so if you're a wife and this is your language of love, and your husband is constantly telling you, I love you, but there's never words of affirmation about your person, about you individually, it's going to be kind of hard to understand what he's saying. Number two, quality time. Quality time. Just spend some time. Not talking about, what do you got planned tomorrow? What are we going to do? Let's get our calendars together. Not that. Quality time of sitting down on the couch and just talking. Maybe turn the TV off or put your phone away. Just talk. When you're driving in the car, just talking. And have you found yourself, is this difficult for y'all to do? This to spend, because look how busy we are. Let's hurry up and spend some quality time together. I got an appointment at 9 o'clock. But this stuff's got to get carved out. So there's quality time. Number three, receiving gifts. You go off on a business trip or you go off somewhere, and your spouse just loves to have a little gift. You go off and y'all are talking, and our rule is the person that travels does the calling, because you know your schedule, you know what you're going on. And so I've got to admit, when we're talking to Stacy, when she was in, I don't know, Spain or London, anyway, she said, I got you something. What? Tell me. I ain't telling you, And so now, I'm like, oh, wow, what is it? And so, how many of you are just a little gift? It doesn't have to be $500 worth of stuff, just a pen or a coast, just something little. Some of you are like that. And so when you say to your spouse, I love you, I've got you something. All right, so now you're speaking. See, the I love you, but now you've translated it. And this is your translation. All right, number four, acts of service. Now, there's some of you, if your husband or wife says, since I'm a guy, let me speak from the male perspective here. I love you. Okay. I'll vacuum the house for you Saturday. Yeah, okay, there you go. Yes. How about I wash your car for you? Yes. How about I take your car down to Circle K and get some get some gas? Sorry, I'm so sorry. Fill it up with gas. Yes, thank you. And so, if your spouse, if their gift or their native language is acts of service, do something. Don't just sit on the couch and say, "Love you, babe. Love you. Boy, you look good today. You're looking hot today." That's just yakety 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 yak. Get up and do something. Find something that you can take off of their shoulders. Some chore, some job, something that you can relieve them from. All right. Then number 5, physical touch. Holding hands, giving a back rub, or just hugging. Physical touch. These are the 5 native languages of love. All right. Now let's do this. How many of you, the words of affirmation are really important to you? All right, we've got several. All right, what you look like, what you did. All right, quality time. You just love quality time, quality time, quality time. All right, receiving gifts. John, you're a needy guy over here. Receiving gifts, especially something like a knife. Man, and a pen. I love pens. Yeah, okay, all right. How about acts of service? There you go. Doing something in the place. All right. How about physical touch? Holding hands. All right, good. All right, there you go. So I need to keep in mind I have a spouse that's unique among all spouses in the world, just like you. And her needs are different, just like you. And so the more I know about her, the more bilingual I become. All right? And so I know what she likes and what she doesn't like. And when I speak that language and I say, "I love you," let me vacuum the house. Now I've translated it. So anybody can, yakety yakety yak, anybody can do that. It's when we translate it into the gift that they have, the language that they have, that it becomes really significant. And so what is your language? And we looked at that here briefly and momentarily. So your language, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. So deep inside of all of us, when you hear the words "I love you" coupled with your language, now you're hearing. We're not deaf anymore. This is the clicker. And I've used this illustration before. It's about this young man that works every hour of overtime that he can get. Let's say he works at Mosaic, and they offer him 20 hours overtime a week, and he's on it. He's on it. And her language is, say, quality time. Well, he's working and making all this money. He's gone all the time. And finally, she just blows up and says, "You don't love me." What? Why do you think I'm working 20 hours a week overtime so I can get you stuff? That ain't what she needs. She needs quality time. And so he's saying, "I love you. That's why I'm working." What? "I love you. That's why I am gone all the time." Excuse me? You understand he's not speaking her language? And then when he says, "I talked with my boss today, and I've agreed I'll work 5 hours overtime a week. The rest of the time we're going to go do something. I love you." Now he's speaking her language, because he's agreed now to speak the language that she needs, which is quality time. All right, now let's hustle on. Does your spouse speak your language? Can you? Well, sometimes we get spoken to like that, I guess. Can you honestly say that you understand your spouse to be saying "I love you" on a consistent basis? Do you think your spouse knows your language? Is your spouse bilingual? Are you bilingual? And quite often we think, if this is what I love, this is what he or she loves. What I like is what she likes. That's just the way it is. That's just not the way it is. I mean, it's like in hobbies. You know, some of you ladies may want to go down to Lake Placid and do the Caladium Festival. And your husband ain't necessarily into caladiums. No, you can go. I don't want to go down there and spend. There you go. All right. Well, get up and help her, man. But now, you know, what in that situation, Caladium Festival's coming up. She loves that kind of stuff. What would a wise husband do? He would say, all right, when are we leaving? You're going to go? Yeah, let's go. I want to go with you. And don't do what? Yeah. Exactly. Oh, yeah. All right. We'll go to flipping Caladium Festival. All right. You know, there's a game on today, but I love you. I love you, so I'm going. No, you don't. Good night. Come on, man. You. Stop it. You stop. That's exactly right. You know, and that's letting folks know I don't want to do this. You're exactly right, Sister Charlotte. And so when I learn the language and I speak the language, then the I love you becomes significant. It doesn't matter how many times I say it. If I don't translate into behavior, it really doesn't matter. All right, now, how's your bank balance? Everybody has an emotional bank balance. And you make deposits and withdrawals. This is what we do in our checking account, right? Or your savings account. You can do one of two things. You can make deposits, you can make withdrawals. Now what happens when you take out more money than you deposit? You got overdraft, you know, okay. So you've taken out more than you have in there, and now we got a problem. So regular deposits need to be made into your account to keep it at least current. Well, everybody has an emotional bank balance as well. You as a spouse or even a friend, you can't make constant withdrawals expecting other people to do for you, do for you. You can't do that because eventually you're going to get into what? The emotional red. And so make regular deposits. And you make regular deposits by loving your spouse the way they understand. You're not doing it for anything. It's, you know, can I just tell you that, you know, the sexual relationship is not a doggy biscuit for good behavior. That's not what that is. And so you make deposits with one another emotionally by knowing what their language is, speaking that language. And so could it be, am I making more withdrawals than I am depositing into my spouse's account? So now, again, let's just run this by the ladies. How do you feel when this happens to you? And your husband is in the emotional red. How does that make you feel? I don't think anybody even has to answer out loud. What about when it happens to the other spouse? Do you know when you're in the red? All right. Make some deposits into that person's emotional account, their heart account. And so this is self-centeredness, and it will create the collapse of the bank. What if everybody in a bank overdrew the same day? You know, the overdraw fees. But you understand how banks collapse. This is how marriages collapse. People, I don't want to give it anymore. I've given it and given it and given it. I don't ever get anything in return. And so when the spouses get to the point where I don't want to make any more deposits, I just don't want to do that. That is a serious problem. All right. And somebody is out of God's will at that point. And there needs to be some serious retracking of the individual heart. And because this is never a one-way street and it doesn't last long. This causes some real under-financed, in an emotional sense, marriages, which usually lead to a marital bankruptcy. And so I would encourage all of us, let's stay in the black. Wise spouses build hedges of protection around their marriages. Stacy needs some things from me that she can't get anywhere else. I need to make sure that I am providing those things so her heart has no need of those issues. What does the Bible say? Perfect love does what? You know what fear is? Jealousy there, all right? So perfect love, complete, full love, takes care of this jealousy problem. You're not afraid, well, they're going over here to get that need met and over here, and, perfect love, there's no room. If I love my spouse perfectly, completely, wholly, fully, she's not afraid, and neither am I, that these needs are getting met somewhere else. There's just, and I have known people in my life, a man will see his wife talking to another guy, and he just blows up. Well, there's a problem. There's a problem. And I've seen the same thing. Women see their husband talking to another woman, they just blow up. Well, what were y'all talking about over there? So they just get their tail feathers in a knot. And there's a problem with the level and the quality of love if there is a constant jealousy factor between those two. And so the way that is handled is making constant deposits and making sure that one another, you're constantly in the black emotionally, so you don't have to go anywhere else to get those needs met. So this is absolutely vital. In the banking industry or the economy, there's a thing known as inflation. And inflation is not when you're broke. It's not when you don't have money. Inflation is when you got all the money, but it's not worth anything. You got a pile of money, it's worth nothing. That's called inflation. Now, there can be verbal inflation as well. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take care of that. Yeah, you can depend on me, and nothing ever gets done. Well, you got all these promises piled up, but mean anything. And so what does the spouse think of that? Your word means what? Your word doesn't mean anything, all right? Can that be fixed? Yes, it can. How can you fix an inflated set of promises? What's the best way to do it? What's the only way to do it? Exactly. Start fulfilling those promises. Do what you said you would do. And eventually, it might not be in one day, but eventually what you'll do, you'll work down that inflated emotional economy, and you will have taken care of all of that, and then from that point on, you do your word, you keep your word, and as you do that, honesty and confidence and dependability get built back on the part of the spouse to the individual. And so you just don't, and guys I think are kind of famous. I've done this before. Yeah, okay, I'll take care of that. And if I tell you I'm going to do something, don't remind me every 6 months. That kind of, exactly. Say it and do it. Get rid of it. You've cashed it in, and when you tell I love you, I know you do. You wanted to go do this, but you did this. Thank you for doing that. And that works both ways. This is not just the male, female. This is the female, male as well. And so this Father's Day, this is Father's Day. And you ladies deserve us being in God's will. You do. Mother's Day, we deserve a woman in God's will. This is two-way street here. And so happy Father's Day to all of you dads here. I love you. I appreciate you. I respect you for what you've done with your families, what you've done with your kids. Thank you for that. What you've done for this community and what you've done for this church. Your presence here and your contribution here is absolutely vital. So I want to thank you for what you've contributed. All right, y'all ready to go to the house? Alan, thank you so much for being here, man. We appreciate this. I'm telling you, this guy, I've had many students through the years, and they'll take notes. Or these young millennials, they've got cameras. They take pictures. I do PowerPoint slides for every class, every day in every class. And well, Alan will do that. He's got his pad out. He's learned this several years ago. And he'll take a picture of it, and he'll go home, and he'll type every one of those screens out. He has a book or a notebook on all the classes that I've taught. He's got a notebook that thick on all of the classes. I've never had a student do that before. And matter of fact, he's a pretty sharp guy. I don't know if you do. Do you sell that information to these other students? And they'll all look at Alan. Alan, can I get? Yeah, I'll tell you. And I'm just kidding. He gives it to them. But just a great guy. Thank you for driving all the way over here. I know it's a pretty good little haul. But well, thank you for being here, man. Yes, sir. Every day. You're exactly right. Thank you for coming. We appreciate that. All right. You got an announcement? Okay. You just waiting for us to get out of here? All right. Let's do that. Let's be dismissed. Thank you for being here. See you Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Lord, thank you so much for your word. Thank you for the goodness that you've shown to us. Thank you for every person tonight that has chosen to be here. Thank you for dads who have taken seriously the responsibility of being fathers after your heart. I'm grateful for that. And I pray, Lord, that you'd bless us this week, open doors of opportunity, and may we be bold enough to walk through those doors and share our faith and be what we can in the lives of other people. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.